Typically, my first video from a new location provides an overview of that place. I've done just the opposite here in Lima, Peru, waiting until the final video to provide that look at this wonderful city. Lima is huge, with over 10 million people in the metropolitan area. It's impossible to show you all the parts of the city, but I'll give you the highlights, from the architecturally stunning city center to one of its many shanty towns to one of the best museums in South America. The center of Lima boasts impressive architecture, a number of attractive squares, many statues, and loads of history. It also is vibrant and sometimes hectic. That's just the way things are in a city with more than 10 million inhabitants. I'll start in the Plaza Mayor de Lima. This is also sometimes called the Plaza de Armas. I first went there as I took a tour of the city center during the initial couple of days within arriving here. This is essentially the birthplace of Lima, as the Spanish established this as the plaza at the heart of the city on day one of laying out the grid for development. That was in 1535. For me, the first impression here was not great. It is closed right now because of protesting. When protesters get too close to the area, police shut the park down. Our guide says it happens quite often.
When they get closer, the police put a fence around the whole square here.
It doesn't matter who the protesters are. In this instance, they were educators attempting to inspire some sort of change. We did not wait around to see if the plaza would be reopened for visitors. We moved on. There are a number of pedestrian-only streets in the city center. One of those leads to and from the Plaza Mayor. This is called Giron de la Union. It was created in 1535 at the same time as Lima's foundation. For many, many years, the street was the most important in the city, with the wealthy and powerful gathering here. Now, though, it is simply a commercial boulevard full of retail space and restaurants. It is 5 blocks from the Plaza Mayor to the Plaza San Martin. This space has a regal air to it. The park was dedicated in 1921 on the 100th anniversary of Peru's independence. It's a statue of José de San Martin at the center of the square. He is recognized as the liberator of Peru. The square is beautiful and symmetrical, with green space in each of its 4 corners. The square itself is a great space, but the thing that strikes me are the buildings that surround it. Every which way you turn, they are magnificent. Some of the buildings were constructed prior to the plaza, others were added later. The entirety of Lima City Center was designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1991. A short distance from the center was my favorite area downtown. This is Parque de la Muralla, or Park of the Walls. The park is only 20 years old, but it contains some of the foundational pieces from Lima's early days. The walls you see were built between 1684 and 1687. The wall was built in the 1680s and it had 2 purposes. It served as protection against pirate attacks. It also kept the city safe in case the river flooded. At one time, the wall encircled the city. Now just a few portions remain. In the park, there is a statue of Francisco Pizarro, the founder of Lima. There is also a small museum which contains relics from many different eras that were found in this vicinity. Scattered through the center of the city are numerous religious sites. We stopped at one on our tour.
That is called the Lady of Mercy Church.
The basilica and convent here was established at the same time as the city in 1535. The exterior is striking. Inside, the views are just as impressive. Our Lady of Mercy, or the Virgin Mary, has been seen as the patroness of all of Peru since 1730. This site has been the scene of damage, some from earthquakes, and renovation through the centuries. Just outside of the church is a statue of Ramon Castilla.
He did something very important in 1854. I told you, he abolished slavery.
The statue of Castilla is situated here because this was the site of a slave market before he abolished that practice. To one side of the Plaza Mayor is the Lima Metropolitan Cathedral. It was built over nearly 2 centuries, finally completed in 1797. I also stopped by the Santuario de la Santísima Trinidad. A church has existed at this spot since the 16th century. It used to be much bigger too, as its size was reduced after damage in the 1746 earthquake. Finally, there's the Convent of San Francisco. This place is notable because of the underground catacombs.
So right now, under your feet, you have dead people.
The tour went inside the catacombs, but no cameras were allowed. They once held the remains of up to 70,000 people. All of us on the tour did return to the Plaza Mayor after being turned away earlier.
We were able to get back in because they had opened up the main square again. So now we get to see it from the inside.
It was a little better being able to get up close to the different elements within the plaza. The angles to see all of the structures surrounding the square were an improvement as well. Of course, some will see the most important part was being able to access the Lima letters located at this site. The plaza and the entire city center are definitely worth an hour or two of your time. While our city center guide focused on history and architecture, he did not ignore food. We stepped inside one of the many chicken restaurants in the area.
In Peru, we love chicken. It's chicken, 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 fish, chicken, chicken, chicken again.
He was just about right when he noted there's a chicken restaurant on every block. We also stopped by a place to try some ice cream. There were some uniquely Peruvian flavors to sample. My favorite food experience here, though, was at a churro stand. The options were chocolate or caramel filling.
My first Peruvian churro, this one has caramel on the inside. It is phenomenal, phenomenal, absolutely great.
I invite you to watch my previous video where I focus solely on the foods of Lima and Peru. A large percentage of Lima's population lives in shanty towns, communities which were created when individuals squatted on vacant land. I visited Villa El Salvador. This was barren desert until 1971, and now it contains nearly 500,000 people. I took a tour, and one of our stops was the local market. Vendors work hard to bring goods to the barrio and provide for their families.
He goes to a huge market called Santa Anita around 12 a.m., 1 a.m. They come here around 5 a.m., no? And they open the stand around 5:30 in the morning.
By 3 o'clock, the selling was just about done, but this couple, originally from Venezuela, was preparing onions for the following day. I asked them to describe Villa El Salvador.
They have low resources. A lot of people live here. People is very humble, but is good people.
We wandered through the market for a while, seeing what was offered and interacting with many of the sellers. We even bought some produce that we would take to another location later. My guide comes here several times each week, and she has gotten to know the residents very well.
These people, they are brave, they are tough, they are overcoming the different challenges.
To go farther into the neighborhood, we grabbed a tuk-tuk, which is the transportation of choice for taking short trips up and down the hills. It was small and a bit noisy, but quite efficient. We ended up at a place which provides services for residents. This is a soup kitchen that serves lunch to a fairly large number of people almost every day.
De lunes a viernes.
From Monday to Friday.
El sábado hacemos desayuno.
Saturday, they make breakfast.
There was a small garden on the side of the hill behind the kitchen. Peppers were drying in one location. The soup kitchen receives some assistance from outside, but most who eat here are asked to pay a small amount to help cover the costs. Some, however, eat for free.
For example, the seniors, for example, the handicaps, no, they don't pay anything.
Continuing education is offered next door. Training is available in many fields, such as hairstyling for those who are beyond normal school age.
La idea es
Everyone that wants to learn, they are welcome.
This can be a path to earning money and survival. It was a different kind of tour in Villa El Salvador, not concentrating on the place so much, but instead the people who live here.
And I like to talk with them. I like to show their work to the people.
It was an interesting way to learn about the barrio. To learn about Peru's past, you might want to visit the Larco Museum. It contains the country's largest and most significant collection of pre-Columbian archaeological relics. There is everything here, from jewelry to pottery to tapestries. It covers over 5,000 years of Peruvian history, mostly in chronological order. This is considered one of the top museums in South America. Many different rooms hold assorted treasures. I always find it helpful to view things that are on display in a setting such as this, not just as objects. Instead, I like to think of the craftsperson taking the time to plan what they were going to create, then taking the steps with whatever tools they had to make their vision reality. There are so many artifacts in the collection that the displays can only handle so much. That being the case, one of the storage areas is also open to guests, with items simply placed side by side on row after row of shelves. The Larco is known for its collection of erotic pottery. Some of those artists were a bit obsessed. This museum is privately owned and is situated in a stunning white 18th century building. It contains a gift shop, a restaurant, and beautiful grounds with many flowering plants. Plan on spending an hour or more in this location. There are several other places within Lima that you do not want to miss on your visit. Chinatown is just a short walk from all of the important historic sites in the city center.
Chinatown itself is actually pretty small, but the population of those who count themselves among Chinese descent is relatively large, both in Lima and in Peru. Earlier in a video, I said that number was around 1 million. I've subsequently heard that it could be closer to 1.5 million.
After slavery was abolished, Peru needed workers. Leaders made it easy for immigrants from China to relocate to this part of the world. The influx began in 1849. Now, in many instances, especially with regard to food, the cultures of Peru and China are intertwined. Although it only covers a few blocks, Chinatown is arguably the most significant in all of South America. It's fantastic to walk through the always busy pedestrian streets and at least smell, if not taste, what is produced in the many restaurants. Don't miss the Miraflores and Baranco neighborhoods. As a traveler, you will most likely stay in one of these two areas. I have separate videos on each of these places. Walk along the Malecons, which are paths perched at the top of the cliff overlooking the Pacific. Take the time to walk down to the beaches too. There you'll see surfers and a mainly rocky coastline. In Miraflores, visit the Park of Love with its massive sculpture of a couple in a passionate embrace. Stop in Kennedy Park and hang out with the dozens of friendly resident cats. And shop or dine at the Larcomar, a retail complex built right into the cliffside. In Barranco, hold your breath as you cross the Bridge of Sighs to make your wish come true. Appreciate the colorful murals and street art that indicate you are in the hip part of town, and enjoy the end of the day by going to the cliff's edge for one of the most magnificent sunsets anywhere.
I was so comfortable in the Barranco and Miraflores neighborhoods where I stayed that I was tempted not to venture out. I'm so glad that I decided against just staying here and made it to other parts of the city. 4 weeks in Lima has gone so quickly, and I'm not ready to leave, but it's on to my next stop in a couple of days. It will be different as I travel to Asunción, Paraguay for a month in a place where few people visit. I'll have the videos for you right here on Old, Alone, and Far From Home.
Saca la botella hasta que me olvide. Saca la botella y eso se acaba.